Hi, everybody. Welcome to this next session. We are doing an international session here, and I'll get everyone to do an introduction to themselves in just a moment. But what we thought we would do to finish off the day today, and part of the reason why we're running it at this time is we have people from time zones all around the world. But what we thought we would do is have a look at some international perspectives on really the impacts on both industry and probably more so on education, the impacts that COVID's had over the last 6 or so months. I think it'll be a really interesting discussion because we're able to bring in perspectives from all around the world. And I think it's a rare opportunity for us to gain information, share some stories and share some knowledge about how different countries are approaching education in this, obviously slightly different than usual time. And also to get some perspectives on what's working, what's not working, and maybe there's things that you viewers can take away and bring back to your own institutions and some ideas and bits and pieces. But we'll also be talking specifically about Kristina's paper that's in the video section on the Summit website. So hopefully, of those people who are watching right now, most of you might have already watched Kristina's quick video. But before we get to that, I might just go around and get everyone to give themselves a super quick introduction. For those who don't know me, my name's Ben O'Hara. I'm actually now the Managing Director at Collarts in Melbourne. I know that sounds very official. It's a lot of fun. Collarts is only about 1,000 students, but we're a music and entertainment industry based organisation based here in Melbourne. So Serona, a quick introduction for you.
Sure. Hi, everyone. So I'm Serona Elton. I'm at the University of Miami. I wear too many hats. I'm the director of the music business program there, and I'm also the associate dean of administration, which sort of responsible for the operations of the School of Music. I also wear a different hat outside that you'll find out about at a future MEIEA Meets, where I'm the head of educational partnerships for the Mechanical Licensing Collective, the MLC.
Thanks, Serona. Henric?
Hey, everyone. Henric, Sweden calling. It's midnight here. So if I doze off, please nudge me. I'm sure it's fine, though. My name is Henric Lindstrom. I'm head of music and event management at Linnaeus University in the southeast part of Sweden. And I'm also the European liaison in the MEIEA board. So that's basically who I am.
Thanks, Henric. And Cece, who will be new to lots of our MEIEA participants. So welcome to your first MEIEA activity, Cece. Can you give us a super quick introduction?
Hi, my name is Cece. Sorry, I couldn't register this Zoom, so I hope you can see my name on the screen. Yep. And okay, I'm an associate professor and also master supervisor in China Conservatory of Music. I'm in the Department of Arts Management. I'm also running a section of it's a series section of Arts Management series. And I got a PhD from Media Economics from Communication University of China, and also Case Western Reserve University in the U.S. And so I'm very happy to join you. So I may look new, but I know Ben for a while, and nice to meeting Serona and Henric.
And Kristina there as well.
Kristina, so, hey. I have a very small screen. Kristina, okay.
Hello, Susie. Hi, everyone. I'm Kristina Kelman. I work at the Queensland University of Technology in Brisbane, Australia. I sit on both sides of the fence, so I'm working with artists as in singers, with songwriters, composition, performance. But I'm also working in music and entrepreneurship. So a lot of my research interests really are around our students learning through enterprise and event-based learning. Nice to be here. And it's not 3 a.m. and I'm usually at online conferences at 3 a.m. So I'm very excited.
Cece, it's 6 o'clock in the morning.
I know.
For me, it's 8. For you, Kristina, it's 8, I think, as well.
Yeah.
Serona, you're sort of late
6
after.
p.m., 6 in the evening, on the east coast of the U.S.
What a truly international group we are. So. I do want. We're getting lots of great welcomes here, and from people, Sean and Keith, Greg, which is really nice. I just want to say that if my attention appears to be diverted this way, it's because I'm looking at my other screen with the chat on it. I'm not checking Facebook or in news feeds. I promise. So let's start with Kristina, and we'll talk about your paper just a little. I'm sure that everyone has watched your video in great detail, everyone watching on the stream as well. But just in case anyone hasn't, in sort of, 2 or 3 minutes, can you give us a really quick summary of the paper and what the findings were?
Sure. I've just been tracking a project that I've been running every year since 2015. I started with an event that QUT ran for 7 years called the Indie 100, where we recorded over 100 hours. We recorded 100 songs every year for 7 years to kind of archive what was happening in our Brisbane local music scene. The independent music scene in India is a lot less developed and has a lot less industry scaffolding to support it. So it really kind of remains a bit of an underground scene. Colleagues in India loved our Indie 100 model and said, that would be a great way to unearth what's happening in our independent scene. So we kind of just worked with them on implementing a mini version of that in Chennai, India. So for the first couple of years, I was taking a team of Australian record producers, Indian record producers, and we were running this event and unearthing maybe 12 different indie artists each year, putting out an album. And I would take probably a couple of students each year to assist with production. My QUT Music Biz students would then work on the promotion and release of that album each year. A lot of funding kept coming through each year, given the success of the project. We then received New Colombo Plan funding, which is a really important one for increasing Australian students' mobility in areas such as India and within Southeast Asia. So we were able to take 15 students fully funded on that project, and so the project has since expanded to become more of a project that's about musical collaboration as well as entrepreneurial collaboration between young Australians and young Indians. So that's really it in a nutshell. What my project has done is I've collected post-student feedback for the last couple of years to kind of reveal how students' mindsets were possibly changing in regards to the way that they were interacting and thinking about their role in the music industry, but now across various cultural contexts. And I'm interested in this because these kinds of knowledges and skills can only really help support students to be more effective in their own local music communities. And I feel like the data that we were analysing is really starting to show that these kinds of projects are valuable. And whilst I don't proclaim that we can create interculturally competent students in a couple of weeks, I think it's a spark, or it's the start of something. Challenges are how we could do this without physically going to India, which I'd be very interested to hear from the floor about, or the panel about these kinds of learnings.
I think that's something we'll definitely get onto in a minute.
Yeah.
One question that came out to me watching your presentation. Well, Collarts does a similar exchange, a 2-week, and we do call it a cultural exchange with China, US, and Australia.
Mm-hmm.
And but it's a music business project, not a music creation project. Mm-hmm. And one of the things you said in your presentation was around you think that it might accelerate the cross-cultural aspects of things because it's creativity based. Can you expand on that a little bit? Do you think that it can still work in a music business context? Does it have to have that creative context and so on?
Yeah. Look, I think that adding that creative collaboration element to it, certainly I kind of think turbocharged the whole process, because there's a certain amount of there's a lot, you know, when they come together to collaborate and they have the demands on them that, you know, you're going to do 4 live shows, I'm going to get these recordings done, and you know, you've just got to get in there and you've got to work out how these connections and these relationships are going to work, and so I think it did turbocharge that process, and in a sense there was a lot more empathy. Students from my side were able to kind of put themselves in their counterparts' shoes to really understand where their points of view and where they were coming from, and I think those processes really sped things up. And I think, as with music being the facilitator of that learning, is a really powerful thing, because both sides discovered they had so much more in common than they originally thought when they all turned up. They were all speaking a similar language, really. So yeah.
So I might ask the rest of the panel if anyone has a question for Kristina on her paper there.
Absolutely. Very interesting paper, Kristina. I love this kind of stuff. And, you know, your reasoning about, you know, creativity being kind of a accelerator into cultural skills and so forth is quite interesting to me. In your data, do you see that they express any development in you know, cross-cultural communication? Because it's 2 weeks and they work quite intensively from what I understood from the videos as well. But do you see any, you know, hard data on, you know, the students' mindset kind of shifting in any way?
Yeah, very much. And it was probably 100% across the data, in the sense that students were really having to adjust to the industry processes there, that there is a lack of structure, and there's no fixed way to do something, that everything will run late, and that things will get pulled at the last minute, and that the sound operators won't speak English, and they all express enormous frustration in those first couple of days, because it's not the way that they're used to operating here. But all of the participants have come full circle and talked about the fact that actually, once they understood how things worked in India and they had the confidence that everything was going to work out okay, because it always miraculously does, they were able to really relax into the rhythm of India time, and actually enjoy the process a lot more. And many of the participants commented on the fact that they forgot that music making and music business could be fun. So that was quite a great insight. Just that flexibility and adaptability to shift from the highly structured environment to this environment. More than anything else, I think. Yeah.
And so I know Cece had trouble getting, she couldn't watch the video, blocked in China on Vimeo. It's a great Serona, do you have any questions, or are you okay? We can move on. That's up to you.
Well, just a quick question. I thought it was amazing what you were able to do. And, you know, as a faculty member who often wants to thinks about pursuing more international activities, I think it feels daunting to kind of coordinate a trip of a bunch of students somewhere and certainly a place like India, you know, and so, I mean, how have you felt about that? And without getting into all the nitty gritty, because I can only imagine how much went into actually planning the operations of it all. You know, is it for not the faint of heart? Is it really not that difficult? What can you share about that?
Yeah, hello, Serona, my fellow Aussie. Yes, it's an enormous amount of work, but we had a template, and I think having a template really helps, because it just kind of provides a bit of a framework for a starting point. It's Chennai. It's not kind of more glamorous Mumbai or very kind of English-leaning Delhi. It's Chennai. It's rough. It's hard. We have had a bit of culture shock from students. I think that's the most challenging thing is, look, actually, I'll say one student experienced significant culture shock and we had to send her home, but pretty much 99% of students have within 24 hours really come around and gone, well, this is an opportunity, as opposed to something that was really scary. But yes, you're clocked on 24 hours a day, as you know, probably from doing trips yourselves. It's a little bit more stressful in a place like India, because the students really are not only operating in another country, but they're operating in a really, really different environment where cultural norms are very different, and there are different rules. And yeah, so that for me is always the hardest part, and it's really exhausting when you get home and you think, oh, what did we do that? It's crazy. Yeah.
Thanks, Kristina. We might put a bow around that. I'm not getting any other questions from the chat, so we might move on to our more sort of general panel questions. So, Cece, I might start with you. Can you tell us a little bit about what's happening at the Conservatorium of Music? How are you delivering classes right now? Are they remote? Are students back on campus? What's happening in Beijing as far as education goes?
Well, okay. Since China, China is the first country outbreaks the coronavirus, so it's a little bit more pressure on us, on the teachers and the students. But I'm from a conservatory, so it's a music university. So most of our majors are facing a large problem. So because all our most of our major are performing major. It's like vocal instruments or composing. So most of the major is very difficult to teach online. So usually our teachers will teach face to face, and as the student gets guidance from a teacher in practicing something. Sometimes, most of the times. So I'm actually good, because I am a theory teacher, and unfortunately I have 3 courses that semester, last semester. So I one is music communication, and another is music in industry, and the other one is the guidance of students' paper. So we got it online, but not using Zoom. We have another software from Tencent Meeting, and it's okay. So most of the platform open free to us, to the educationer, so it's okay. And we teach online. But I think is one part that is interesting is that for our teacher, my first things to do is teaching online, and another is we need to take care of several students. Everyone take care, like 20 to 25 students. I have 25 students. What means take care? It means that I need to call them video call every single day. every person to make sure that they are stay at home and to make sure that they are healthy, both in physical and mental. So it's a long time to do that, and like 1 hour to do that every day. And in our department, we also need to do internship that semester, like from February to June. That's our semester. That our internship semester for third year undergraduate student. But we couldn't do that because all the theater shut down and all the music companies shut down. But we still wanted to do it for the students. We don't want to miss that. So I think a lot of online company and some of the leading internet companies helped us, like QQ Music from Tencent, and another one is called TikTok. So they take like 20 of our students to do the online internship that whole semester, and if they even got interns salary from them. So this is what the industry do for us for the education. I think it's very interesting. They helped us to make to make this semester. I think we didn't lose anything, but online.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks. I've got a question about internships in a minute, so we might come back to that topic as well with everyone.
Okay.
I think it's very interesting making having 20, 25 students that are your responsibility, that you contact all the time. And at Collarts, we have done something similar, but to be honest, it's more the administration or the student support staff that are contacting students, and they're certainly not contacting them every single day. It's amazing that you're doing that, and I think that's a huge level of care for the students. So I think that's really great. And that could be a lesson for all of us. It's a lot of effort, but like you said, an hour a day is probably worth it when you think about it, the amount of effort you would put into students if they were on campus. So Henric, maybe over to you. What's happening in Sweden? What's the approach right now?
The approach in Sweden varies, actually. The universities, it's up to each and every university to decide how they want to do it. But we have to follow kind of the general guidelines of not having more than 50 people, gathering and keep a social distance. Some universities this semester at least have pushed everything online. We haven't at the Linnaeus University. We do both. We do kind of a blended learning. And we try to meet students in smaller groups, especially the freshman students or the new students, so to speak, because they need kind of, in theory, they need us more as teachers, and they need the interaction more. So we try to meet them in smaller groups, but we can't be more than 50 people. And we have to have lecture halls big enough to ensure a social distance. So it's a little bit tricky. So the older students, the second or third year students, we meet less frequently. I'm running a course in project management now, and I've met them physically once. But the first year students I've met basically at least every second week or so. Just because we think they need our interaction, but there's universities in Sweden that have probably just said let's do it online because we don't want to change everything, because it's a struggle as well, because we don't know what will happen in 2 weeks or in a month. So you do kind of it's a kind of a trial and error base in teaching going on. So you have to have a contingency plan. So I can do seminars with my students now, gathering 20, 25 of them in a room and have, a couple of hours of discussions. I can do that now, but I have to have a contingency plan if I can't in 2 weeks, basically. So from a teacher point of view, you always have to have different ideas of how to teach whatever you're teaching, basically. On the other hand, we're a quite big university. I mean, we have, I think it's 32,000 students or something like that in total. Not studying music industry, of course, but in total. So it probably varies a lot within our university as well. But from my point of view, I try to meet them every now and then, if I am allowed, so to speak.
So it's interesting, the universities, not only is the country leaving it up to you, to each university to decide, but it sounds like within your university, they're leaving it up to you on a kind of week-by-week basis to decide how you want to best deliver that particular course.
Yeah, in practice, that's what they're doing. But we have recommendations, of course. Try to meet the first-year students, the more senior students. We can handle those, and they are normally more used to communicating in different ways anyway, because a lot of us have some sort of blended learning already set in place, so it's it's a little bit easier than that. But yeah, it's a little bit up to us with some strong recommendations, as they call it, which is not laws, but it's strong recommendations. And being Swedish, we do tend to follow those.
That's good. So Serona, how's things in Miami?
Well, similar to what Henric was saying, it's sort of all of the above. So, in the U.S., different universities have been approaching it differently and have to take into account local restrictions, which, vary by city, by state. Some universities started one way for the semester and then have changed course. So at the University of Miami, we're doing all of the above. So we have in-class, in-person classes, and that was particularly important in our School of Music. But I will say, and I've missed so many MEIEA meets that I'm so bummed out about, the operational complexities at a School of Music dealing with COVID have been tremendous because of close monitoring of air exchange rates with the air conditioning for certain aerosol generating activities like wind instruments, brass instruments, singing, even with masks. So it wasn't as simple as just marking the chairs 6 feet apart and there you go. A lot more complicated than that. But so we have classes that are meeting in person only. We have classes that are meeting online only. And then we have these hybrid classes that there's two pieces to them that make them hybrids. One is that you have students sitting in the classroom, and at the same time, you have students attending virtually, usually via Zoom, at the same time, synchronously. Professors hate that, I have to say, and we're going to try as a university to do much less of that in the spring, where possible. I actually don't think it's going to be all that possible in the School of Music, frankly, but that's difficult for a professor to really be splitting their attention. But even if, let's say, you don't have that happening, we also have hybrids where, let's say you had 30 students in the class and the room can only hold 15. And so you're rotating attendance and you're saying half of you will come on Tuesday in person while the other half join on Zoom. And then on Thursday, you will swap, right? And that's a nightmare in its own way as well. So I think the university is trying to rethink some of that also for the spring, a lot of learning about what really has and hasn't worked. They have not, different universities are different. University of Miami have not actually given faculty members the choice about taking their class online or not. They have not given that discretion to faculty. So faculty were allowed to apply for an accommodation. If you've been following sort of inside higher education or the Chronicle in the United States, this is an issue all around the country of faculty being able to ask to say, I want to teach my classes online. I don't feel safe coming back to campus. And, complexities around how much, proof of a medical condition did you have to provide in order to be granted that accommodation? That's really messy. And so at the University of Miami, let's say we had a faculty member who taught a lecture class who was granted an accommodation and was allowed to not come to campus to teach remotely. The class didn't move online. The class still came in person to the classroom, and a different professor or a teaching assistant had to be in the room to essentially put the faculty member on the screen. Madness. So there's a lot of things that you could easily get into a faculty governance discussion, things that you think that sounded great to some administrator, but that is not working well at all. So we'll see how much difference happens in the spring. But yeah, sort of all of the above. We're doing all of it.
I think it's such a complex thing for administrators. In the nicest possible way, you've got to think about how the budget hits. Are you doubling up costs on delivery? We're dealing with a lot of that stuff right now because we're thinking about next year's budgets and how we make that work. You of course you're going to prioritise the health and safety of your staff and students, but also you don't have a college if you can't get a budget that works. So there's got to be some give and take. But also, I think the bigger the institution, the harder it is, because you get those ridiculously bureaucratic decisions that the lecture is online, but the class is still face to face. That's just bizarre, really, isn't it? But I can see how that happens in a big institution because nobody's really thought through the full list of possible ramifications. So Kristina, I could see you nodding a lot there. You
all of the above. Look, I think for yes, all of the complexities around managing the safety of the students, but I think one of the biggest things that I felt quite affected by is the huge budget cuts, especially given that my university was one of the universities hard hit by the loss of international students. So even staff had to also, we had to vote on a new enterprise agreement in terms of our own holiday leave loading, salaries, etc. But we lost many of our sessional staff, our part-timers, and for me, that's where that deep expertise lies. So here we are as a full-time staff of maybe 8 of us, all who have to now teach everything with our little narrow little spots. It's quite a nightmare, I feel so dreadful for my students who, I've got a student who wants to make trap music. I have no idea how to make trap music, and I don't have my electronic music specialist anymore. And I just feel like I'm constantly having this kind of these moments of feeling extreme guilt for the student experience, but also under the pump constantly because not only have our teaching loads increased, and I'm so grateful to have a job, so I'm not whinging, but just feeling a bit fraudulent some of the time because I'm trying to teach things I don't really know a lot about. So it's all very conflicting at the moment. So yeah.
Yeah, a couple of comments on the chat, which Kelly Garner's saying, thank you, Serona. She's got the same kind of complex problems. And Greg's offered to tell us what's going on in Alberta, Canada. So I think we've got a real mixed bag of approaches there, which is really good. I might talk briefly about Melbourne because we're currently in one of the heaviest lockdowns in the world. We are limited to only travelling 5 kilometres from our house. Up until recently, there was a 8 p.m. curfew in place. We haven't had a class on campus since the last week of March, and I can't see that we'll have any this year. The only things that we've been able to do is open for some student bookings. So if a student wants to book a rehearsal studio, a recording studio, and even that has been stopped for some periods of time, and it's just reopened, or in fact we're just reopening for some of those bookings for final year students only from next week, and there is this year, which seems quite reasonable. But interestingly, we've had very little choice, and in some ways, that's been a really good thing. It's a guess to what you, Serona, were talking about. Not having the choice has led us to being able to concentrate fully on remote delivery and how to solve the remote delivery problems, and not think about how to do a blended model and those kinds of things. And the other thing about Collarts in particular is that we're on a trimester system. So we haven't stopped teaching since COVID started. We've had a very short downtime between trimesters, but that's only about a 2-week turnaround each trimester. So we haven't had any time to just stop and take stock. It's just been constant delivery the whole time. And again, I actually think that has had some advantage. I think people are pretty exhausted and it's been hard work, but there's some advantage in that as well. So let me ask a change of direction question. I said I'd get back to the internships question. So does anyone have internships as part of their programs, and how have they been going remotely? So Cece, you've already mentioned you've got some internships and you've been doing those with some of the big tech companies in particular. Is that a good summary of where your internships are at?
Actually our university is signing the contract with, it's not contract, it's like cooperation for a long time with them. But most of our students will go to the recording company, or sometimes go to the music company, or entertainment company most of the time. But this time, and we also send students to opera theater sometimes. But this time is not good time. And so our company shut down, and the theater is not open anymore. So we actually contact the internet company in, I think, February or March. It is a temporary thing, but it's not on any contract. But they would like to offer some internship opportunity to our students. Of course, we have a very short, or very simple interview online with the HR of their the companies like Tencent Music or TikTok. They are nice and they accept our students and arrange the student to do something. Another reason I think they take our students is most of them are undergraduate students. Only 2 are graduate students. I think they took the students because they are really busy, and they need some students to help them. For everything's online, and most of the industry is not earning money, but the online and companies and all the online and industries is very good. So but we now will have the new contract with them to send our students to the internship. And the students will do what? I think the students will do, most of them are writing some plans. Well, of course, it's drafts for their supervisor, and they have one supervisor for like four or 5 students, and the students have supervisor in university too. So if I am a student supervisor in university and the other one is from QQ Music, we will contact each other. We have contacts while we chat to make sure that the student is okay, doing something okay, or whatever. We contact each other in case that is anything wrong happened. So this is our education is different from others. We take care of the students like a baby during the epidemic time.
That's great, Cece. Anyone else got internships and some observations around how they're going in the current time?
Well, listen to this. I actually have an international student coming to Sweden to do her internship, which is quite, unusual in this time and age, I guess. But otherwise, it's a struggle. It's because we don't place the students. The students are supposed to find their own internships as a part of kind of their learning curve of being professionals, create your own job in a sense. And those interested in the live industry are, of course, struggling at the moment because there is basically no live industry at the moment. The recording industry is doing fine though. So that's probably, for those students, is not a problem. But yeah, it will be tough for them. So we will probably do some more kind of hands-on helping them, and also reaching out to our own networks in the industry to help them out, I guess.
Great. Serona or Kristina, anything more?
Yeah, I mean, I think it really it has varied a lot by company, So I mean, I think leading into our summer, right? A lot of our students finish classes mid-May. They might start an internship in June. I think at that point, most companies were reeling from moving fully online, right? And, the last thing they cared about was interns. Like, it's got to figure out how to even get my employees working online, and the big companies, not everybody has a laptop, and, they were just sort of dealing with a crisis of being able to continue operating. But, since then, earlier this semester, sort of August time, I've heard of a couple students got an internship here or there for the fall semester, we call it. But it really takes, it's really company specific, They have to have somebody who oversees an internship program, who feels comfortable enough with managing students remotely, I mean, students and entry-level employees as a category at that stage of your career usually need a lot of supervision, to make sure they're getting the work done, to make, they're focused, they're not just on Facebook all day. If you think about the kind of level of interaction an intern usually has in a physical office, you have to have somebody supervising them who is, ready and capable and comfortable enough to do that online. And so I think we've really seen examples of companies that say, talk to me about internships next June, can't deal with it now. And others who are starting to now kind of restart their programs, their internship programs with online, capabilities and supervision. So there's quite a spectrum. I think it just mostly has to do with, does that company, are they short staffed now? Like, do they still have the same number of employees who can do the work? And how comfortable are they with being able to continually manage people remotely?
Yeah.
And I'd probably just add something a little different to that. Whilst there haven't been the opportunities that there would normally be, there've been a few, and a lot of festivals, for example, have gone online, so that's created opportunities for students. But we've found that our students have become so much more creative, and our final capstone project-based learning has just blown out of control. There are so many interdisciplinary projects on the go, music students working with the film students or writing music for theatre productions, business students working on the production teams for large-scale YouTube series projects. It's been mind-blowing to actually see the amount of student-driven peer learning and collaboration. So interdisciplinary and project-based learning, absolutely it's just going out of control. Love it. Loving it.
Well, that probably segues nicely into my next question, which I think will be our last, as we're starting to run out of time. Mm-hmm. But I thought we should end on a positive note, and I wanted to ask you all what has been the best thing to come out of the whole situation, either in your country, in your institution, or in terms of music business or music industry education. What do we think the highlights and the things that we'll be able to carry into the future have been? Who wants to kick that one off?
I'll jump in first. It's exactly what we're doing now. Guest speakers from all over the world. We've done that before, where you put a speaker on a screen via Skype, and it just was never great. You know, and I think now, and this has got to be benefiting programs, especially where they're not already in a music center, don't have a lot of people coming through town. I think some other people mentioned this on some panels earlier today, where, you know, having money to fly guest speakers in is quite a luxury that's certainly gone now, and it was a luxury to begin with. But now with online, in terms of things like Zoom and other tools where everybody is able to be on a little screen, the experience is so much better, I think, than when you tried to have, you know, a speaker on a big screen in a classroom who can't see any of the people. You know, you're trying to hold your laptop around so they can see the students asking questions. It's awful for everybody. Whereas now, you know, we just had nonstop guest speakers and workshops and things online, because everybody's become so comfortable with it. So that's something that really excites me. I almost can't see us for quite some time going back to in-person guest speakers. I mean, we'll probably do it eventually, but, you know, you can really get the speakers you want, you would love to have, not just those who have come through your town. So that's something I'm really excited about.
Serona, that reminds me of a story. One of the big guest speakers I ever organised was Gerd Leonard, when the Future of Music book just came out, and I had to beg my faculty for some money, and it was, at the time, it felt like an extraordinary amount of money to pay him, and he agreed to come on, and it was like midnight wherever he was, and we had to run the class at 8 in the morning, and students were really upset, and just getting everyone in the one room. And then, of course, the technology, I guess it was about 2006, 2007 when that book came out, maybe. The technology just completely failed, and, you know, I still had to pay the guy. We ended up having him on my phone, on my cell phone, with the, you know, speaker on, you know, and everyone's sitting around the desk at the front of the room trying to hear what he had to say. The whole thing was just terrible. And what a difference, you know, what a difference a decade or two makes. I said to someone the other day, it feels like, you know, COVID-19 was really a problem for today. Like 10 years ago, we couldn't have solved this in education like we are now, because the technology was so new and so struggling. So Cece, what about you? What do you think has been the surprising good thing that's happened as a result?
Well, at first I hate to teach online, of course, because it's weird that you are teaching in front of your iPad or your desktop. It's really weird, and I hate to talk like that. But now I think I agree with Serona, because I think the technology is very good, and you can see every student on it, and you can ask them to have a conversation, discussion. Oh, puppy! Hi. and I think it's very good, because you can see how many students you have on the iPad, so you don't have to count them. And what I do more is that I actually record one of my course with software supported by Tencent, so it's kind of good for me, and I save a lot of money. I save a lot of time also, because now this September, our university, we can go back to university to teach. So I need to drive at least 1 hour to go to the university. It's a long time to waste on traffic. And during the COVID time, I finished my half book and finished the 2 papers and another project for a long time that I didn't finish. So I think I save a lot of time too.
Productive.
Kind of it. What about you?
Well, before that, I have to let everyone who's watching on the stream know they can only see the speaker view, but you might be hearing some laughter in the background. There's a few cats walking across people's screens, but I don't think anyone watching on the stream has been able to see those. So quite funny from our Zoom call here, but I'm sure everyone's experienced plenty of that. So. So, Henric, any surprise pluses for you?
Absolutely. I think COVID have, in a sense, brought people closer together, kind of a community feeling, between us educators, of course, because, there's a sense, I have a sense that this crisis and the struggles we have with, online education and, swiftly pushing everything online and remote education and whatever has kind of pushed us a little bit together as educators as well. But also with the industry and within the industry, I'm kind of seeing a little bit more openness and more collaborations and more creative collaborations between parts I, really didn't think would collaborate just to solve the near future problems, and realizing somewhere that we're in this together as educators or music industry or as a part of the music industry, and trying to make the best out of the situation, and that's a really positive outtake I have, at least at the moment.
Yeah, right. And Kristina?
Yeah, I think, as I mentioned before, the creativity, the collaboration, the student energy has been really positive, and more than I can remember in my time at this university. So, yeah, I think there's been a lot of good come out of it. One moment that really touched me was back in June when, for example, our film students who are making their final capstone documentaries and are looking forward to the studios and the equipment and the whole experience, are told they can't do that anymore and had to stay at home and do it alone on their phones. And the most beautiful documentary series called Together Alone came out, again featuring a whole interdisciplinary approach across all of our students in creative industries. And that, to me, was one of the most beautiful outputs I'd seen in years. So it kind of proved that you didn't need all the fancy gear and the millions of dollars worth of equipment and the fancy studios. So I've just seen so much positive work, so many great outputs.
Yeah, great. And for me, I might just add, I'm going to put my administrator hat on for a minute. Our attendance rates have been through the roof, unprecedented student attendance. Our pass rates, our completion rates on subjects has never been better. Average grades are up compared to usual. And I think, and it's going to sound weird, but I think our level of engagement has actually increased. So I think from a teacher perspective, it's a huge amount of work, but I think everyone has really risen to the challenge and become much more, student-centric, student-focused, because they realise the challenges that these students are facing. And I hope we can carry that through to whatever the next phase of delivery looks like. So I think that's probably about our time. So thank you, everybody. I hope that those watching on the stream have enjoyed the panel, and that there's been a few interesting ideas and different approaches being taken from around the world. So perhaps there are some ideas you can take back to your own institutions and see what you can implement. I'm sure everyone out there, if they were able to applaud our panellists, would do so right now. So I'll do it on your behalf. I'm getting a few little comments here from Sean and Armin. And Armin reminding me to remind you all to stick around for the virtual happy hour. So if you haven't had enough Zoom already for today, and happy hour for me starting at 9 a.m. is perfect. That's pretty much when I usually.
Why not?
CC starting a little earlier. I like that. So thank you, panel, and yes, hang around for the happy hour. Will be starting very soon. Thanks, everyone.